We can name them differently.
Let me welcome people.
Oh yeah. Let's commence.
Hello everybody.
Hey.
We have Johannes, Thomas, Kazunori, Wojciech, Lee number 2. We had Lee number 1 this morning in Europe at least.
Okay.
Nadia is back with us again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Guten Abend. Hi, Nigel. Jan-Erik. Good evening, Jan-Erik.
Good evening.
Let's wait another minute and then we'll get started. Stefan, have you contacted Sergey or? Yes, is he replying? Otherwise, you do that part.
He didn't respond yet, but I can take over. Yes.
Okay. So Nadia, I'm assuming that if you joined this morning and you joined this evening, it's because we haven't answered properly the questions you had this morning, correct?
No, I'm just curious about the next sprints.
Okay. So you've understood that at 6 p.m. we rerun a technical session on sprint 1.1 and we do the sort of closing of 1.1, and at 6:30 we officially kick off 1.2.
So Nadia, basically you have a half an hour of free time now. But yeah, no.
For me also.
Right.
Michelle, do you want to open or should we just dive right in?
I think you can dive into it. You guys joining, how you are? So leave Stefan and Lars drive this first half an hour. Again, technical matters, anything you'd like to bring up. But Stefan will start with a short update on the schema versioning, which was a request from last week. I think you can go ahead, Stefan, if you want to share your screen.
I'm just searching. I'm searching the correct repository to share my screen on. So, hello everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good morning to the States, perhaps. And let's see that I have the right one. This one. You should be seeing my screen. You should be seeing a GitHub user interface.
We do.
So what we've done during these 2 weeks, especially yesterday, was we've enabled a schema versioning that now gets updated automatically as we change the schema if something happens in between. And that has been also implemented as an action. And that is, you can see here, there have been a lot of actions fired up. And one of them is schema generation tunnel. And this schema generation tunnel, the latest one, for example, from 8 hours ago, if one clicks on the results of this thing, there's an IFC schema there. And this IFC schema, if one opens, so it's a zip file, and if one opens, it has the same hash attached to it as you can see here. So the schema is named IFC4X417239AA. And we would like to encourage you to use this schema identifier in your files, because then we know, like, if you know your file, to which extent of the schema your file has been produced upon. I know that in the first sprint, we've just ignored that because we weren't ready, but now we are ready. And so we encourage you to use this. And we have, I believe, linked this. Sorry, that's, I need to go somewhere else here. We have linked this in the FAQs of our project, which is, where can I find the latest IFC schema? If you click see here, if you follow the link, you get directed directly to this user interface that I've just shown. And as stated in the FAQs, just click on the topmost element in the list and download the artifact IFC schema. So click on the top one and you have the artifact. So this is the latest schema that we have in the project that has been right now in the past 2 weeks. There have been some merges, some corrections, some typos. I think Lars wants to also add something.
Yeah, I think I noticed that there was 3 A's if you look in the schema. Just to double check.
Oh yeah, the schema takes 8 characters and the GitHub UI only shows you 7. But it's so the hash is a bit longer than this. So if you follow the hash here, the full hash is this, but the GitHub UI shortens it to 7, and our action in the background takes the first 8. So there's going to be 1 character more. But good observation,
yeah.
Lars. And with that, you can also know, that's just the one commit, but in the schema itself, of course, all the previous commits have also been incorporated. So you can click yourself through, for example, through the parents and just look at what has been changed if you wish to. And in the meantime, we're also working on the documentation. So this is the generate schema action that gives you the schema, but there's also new generation that has been published, new documentation, sorry, that has been published today. With all the changes that have been made in the past 2 weeks, and the link to this is still the same. So if we look into the FAQs, where can I find the latest IFC documentation? Follow the link, you come to the latest publication of the documentation. You can scroll through here. If you're interested, for example, in a specific entity, you go to alphabetical listings. On the top, you go to entities on the left. And here you can search for example, I really don't know what IFC rigid operation does. There it is. One clicks on it. Here is the entity. Right, so much as to how we are versioning the schema. And as said, please do use this schema name as in the schema here. I've already started to also just print it in this screen as well, so that you don't need to search for it. What the current version is. And as we move forward, as we perhaps or hopefully not find mistakes in the schema, this will get updated accordingly. Right. That's as far as I wanted to make an update about the schema and schema versioning. Regarding the model view definition, we still disregard that in the checking. So you can write anything you want in there, even leave it empty. The checker will not complain currently. And if we take a look at the pull request, perhaps, so we have currently 9 are open, and we have closed quite some during the past few days. So I think there was, that was mostly me, but we had one from Ivar open, then we had one from Jan Erik, John Merchant, Michelangelo from Aka. So we already merged some of them that have, first of all, passed the checker, but also that have passed basically our human review. There are still some that are waiting, but I encourage all of you that still have a cross next to it, please do take a look into what is wrong and update your files. And with that, I think that would be the summary from my side. And now it's open mic, so to say. Do you have any questions? Do you have any things that bother you, that bug you, that you don't understand from the schema or the documentation? We're here to support you. So I see a hand from Johannes. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Johannes.
I have one problem, that one check is failing and I don't know why. That is the one from the ATTSU.
I see.
Yeah. And
So let's look at the latest check here. So let's look at the summary, of course. Let's see what he's complaining about. So a representation context is problematic. So yeah, the way to best look at this is GitHub. GitHub usually wants you to look at just that one action that fails, but that one step, that one job that fails. But we really are interested in the summary, and it's the project, the presentation context. And if I look at the file itself, I can perhaps tell you right away what the problem might be. That's interesting. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Sorry.
Okay.
Perhaps a smaller case d?
Okay.
Lars, do you think?
No, I don't think so. So I guess the wait a minute.
Where do you link the geometric representation context to anything then? Do you use it anywhere?
No.
I think you did. That's the problem. You didn't link it to project.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I see here, you're linking an IFC unit, which this is definitely not correct.
Okay.
You need to link it to the project. Yeah. So the checker can't find it and complains that, you know, I don't have a geometric context.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. Any other questions from the present? I assume, Johannes, that the hand is still up from the question that we just resolved, I assume, right?
Yeah, sorry.
No, thank you. Any other participant that perhaps sees his pull request here and is not certain about why isn't it merged yet?
Actually, I do have one question, and I'm quite new to GitHub and how we are working. It's the Geo Suite. I'm working with Geotechnics, and we uploaded today this one, and I got the comment that it has more content than required, and it might be that the file will fail future checks and will need amendment. Is it something that we need to do now, or we wait in a later step to do something?
So it's just that so the review comes from me, and it's your file has also, I believe, alignments in there and geomodel, and this is all also content that we will touch in future sprints. And I just didn't want to convey a message that this file is incompleteness correct. I just want to say it's, you know, it has a lot more content. I didn't look at that content, neither did the checker look at that content, so you know we can't really be sure. But we encourage you also, this is also something that I told in the morning, we encourage you all to overwrite your own file, so to really build up the file. It's not necessary that each sprint has its own file. So you can really just build up one file, one example, and have that one also as perhaps an integration test in your suite. But yeah, this is just to tell you, I'm not certain about the other content. And I'm not approving it, but I'm also not disapproving it.
Actually, it's good if Jan Erik is also involved in this conversation, because we are working together. So I think he's raising a hand right now. If
Jan, course.
Yeah, sorry. It was. Yeah, I fully understand your comment, and I got the same comment from our file because those two files looks very much the same, almost the same, because it both comes from Quadri, from the same project, etc. In the future, it will be different, of course, when we start touching into the geotechniques stuff. But when this demo at the beginning, he branched out in addition to forking. What was the purpose of this, Lars? Should we have a branch for every sprint, or how do you think we should organize this?
So let me see if I also understood the question correctly. Perhaps a bit of just how GitHub in general works. If there are two possible ways of how you do joint projects. One is everybody can write into the main repository, and that's it. Or one is everybody has their own fork. And we've chosen this one because that enables you to have as much branches, as many branches, whatever you want to do in your fork. You can do. You can basically make it corrupt if you want. However, if you want the main repository to change, then you need to do a pull request. So you can have as many forks, you can have as many branches, you can name them as you wish, doesn't matter. The interface to the project team, the interface to the deliverable, so to say, is the pull request. So when you open a pull request, this is why we also provided this template for a pull request where you tell us, hey, this file comes from this, it should comply to this, this is what we expect, and this is what I think the interfaces between the participants and the technical team. Lars, would you like to add to that?
But you don't need. I mean, maybe the question was, I created a branch in my cloned fork before creating a pull request, and I assume you could create a pull request from fork main to upstream main, if you like. But yeah, so that, but I feel more secure creating branches when I do work, because then I have that sort of packet of work in that branch, and I know what I'm doing there. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, you can of course do this. So here we can also see Artemis, you've made just changes on your own main in your fork, right? And then you asked the main repository, hey, pull. You made a pull request, pull in the changes. And the more branches is useful if you do multiple stuff at once. But if you're only doing one thing, then of course just have main, and that's good enough.
Yeah, and I think Artemis, we have just capacity for one thing at a time, right?
Exactly. Yeah. For my part, it will be one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Just be sure. So there is also something if one looks at its own fork. If one looks at its own fork, and I'm gonna be here on my fork, if the internet will work. Hi, internet. Why is this loading so long? Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I thought I lost you as well.
Even see you.
So here you can see, for example, it tells me that my main branch that I have selected here, this branch is 6 commit behind the main branch of the main repository, of the upstream repository. And make sure to click the sync fork from time to time, so that you get the changes from the main also to your fork, because that is not automatic. You need to want that. So there's a sync fork, and it tells you, oh, yeah, okay, I'll sync it. And so it's best, for example, after your pull request get merged, to then sync. So I'll update, and it will just pull everything from the upstream repository to my fork. Perfect. This branch is up to date.
It's also best if you sync before you merge or create a pull request. Saves a lot of time.
Yeah, I completely agree there, Nigel.
Before, just one other tip on this. Please make sure you're using the same line feed character return as the original documents, because it's very easy to switch from just character returns at the end of each line or line feed character return at the end of each line, and then your pull request will show every single line has changed. And it's a very common beginner's error.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Nigel, for the tip. Yeah, as of now, we haven't had this error yet, so good prevention here.
Yeah.
Right.
Stefan, I think there was a comment this morning about whether reviewers are assigned automatically or not.
Yes, that is, I believe, Nadia, you've raised the issue. So this has also been fixed previously. So what, of course, you guys don't have, but I have as an admin, I have this cogwheel here next to the reviewers. When you create a pull request or when you open a pull request, have this cogwheel where you can assign reviewers. This is apparently limited to a certain type of certain role of participants. And I did not know that you don't have that right. So right now I've implemented that Sergey, Lars, and myself are marked as code owners. So we get assigned automatically to all pull requests. So we will get notified immediately when you open a pull request, and this will, engage us to also look through your files. What you need to realize is if your pull request has a red cross next to it, we'll probably not yet look at it, because that means that even the automatic checker is not happy with the file. So if you need help there, as Johannes has just voiced, you can also write a comment. Hey guys, I don't understand where the mistake is. We'll have a look. But other than that, if there's a green tick, we usually review quite promptly. We also had another thing in the morning, which is that if you have not contributed to the repository, then GitHub has this button for me to click, which is, I see that Artemis has just merged main into main. Well done, following what we've been saying here. But I myself or Lars or Sergey or some of the admins need to click this button. So that's why automatic checking did not happen automatically as imagined. But as soon as we merge one of your pull requests, it will be marked as contributors, and then this will happen automatically in the future pull requests. So let's approve and run, and let's see if Artemis file gets a green tick. So this should now, I think, yeah, it starts the check. I mean, it was green before, so I can hardly imagine that there's going to be some problems here. Any. Right. Sorry, Artemis, do you have a?
No, just I said okay and check at the same time GitHub that I have it open here on my side.
Yeah.
And then maybe, Stefan, for those who joined this afternoon, could we go through the few quote mistakes that made some of those checks to fail, even though they haven't been produced by the people in the room, but by others?
So perhaps I first start with the problem that is rooted in my doing, that has been in the checker itself. So for example, we had this bug that has been thankfully posted. So this is encouraged. If you see something and you're not sure, it may be that we're in the wrong. And we have checked the model in a wrong way, in a wrong manner, because the documentation was wrong. And the way I wrote the checker is I followed the documentation and not, let's say, normal engineering understanding. So I encoded that the context identifier should be model, where the context identifier should be 3D and the context type should be model. So we cleared this up and we corrected the check. And then we had some more discussions, more people chimed in. And then in the end, we had that the context type should be model and the context identifier should be 3D. And this, of course, made a lot of correct files fail, which I apologize. But now this has been fixed. So the checker that is currently online from 3 days ago checks in this manner. So this has been, for example, one of the hopefully rare occasions where we're in the wrong, but that can happen, and we encourage you to ask critical questions. Then we also had, I believe, a few discussions about a mandatory attribute for dataset reference opened by John. That one got resolved, I believe, quite quickly. Yeah, Lars made it promptly. And then, yeah, Cogwheel I've addressed. We had some problems with the pull request, but that got addressed as well, right, Jan Erik? And other than that, we still have one open issue that is, I believe, a bit soon. Or Lars, would you like to comment on that one?
Yeah, it's a bit soon. P sets and quantity sets, that's ongoing work right now together with the domain teams. But in that particular case, underground excavation is a new entity in 4.4, and we have also added a base class for underground excavation and earthworks cut, which was already in 4.3. So yeah, that will come.
Perfect. Yeah, this is so it's gonna stay here for a while. Perhaps it's best if I mark it as this will not be worked on for now. But if the water is here, don't close it. It's something that we will address. Right, Lars?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I need to do it differently. I need to say like this. Fix. Does it work? Yeah. So in the meantime, Sergey has contacted me. He will join us shortly. So you know.
Maybe Stefan, on the subject matter schema and the concepts that are part of it, to bring everyone up to speed, the purpose of the general usage on a particular concept that is providing basically the proper way to implement the concept. Can you just show an example in the documentation as to how this is expressed?
Yeah, I believe that's a good segue if we want to start with Sprint 1.2, and I show you the documentation of the concepts from Sprint 1.2. Do you think, Michelle, that would be a good thing to do? So, Lars, I would still encourage you to perhaps review my pull request that has all the documentation.
I'm doing that now. I actually saw that the links to the 2 new global positioning was they linked to the original global positioning. So I'm.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's a wrong link. Perfect. That's a pity. I'll do it on the fly. So let's conclude Sprint 1.1. Let's open Sprint 1.2. We're still remaining in the IFC project usages in IFC project, let's say, setup. And this sprint assumes we've completed none of the sprints before. Also, the checker will not check stuff from Sprint 1.1. It will check only Sprint 1.2. So you might still make mistakes in 1.1, but the checks for 1.1 will be turned on again when we start sprints 2 dot something. So this sprint is really, again, just focusing on 3 different aspects. But first on the duration. So you're currently present at the kickoff. Again, submission is Monday in 2 weeks, and we close in 2 weeks' time on Thursday again this time. This sprint encompasses the following usages. So we have project classification information. Let me open it, which basically associates classification to an IFC project. So if you are using a classification in a project, if you're using, for example, co-class or COBE or Uniclass or the DIN 277, there are plenty of them. You should well associate it with the project so that the project knows, okay, we're using this classification. What we are testing, so what the checker will look like, so in order for you to get the green tick, it shall associate an IFC classification that has non-empty source and name attributes. Whatever you write in there. It can also be blah, blah. That doesn't matter. You can also pick some that perhaps make sense in your field of work, but associate one IFC classification to your project. Then we have a second usage, which is spatial decomposition. Let me open this one. So we're primarily focusing on this node that is here, which is the link between the project and the highest level spatial element, which is provided by this concept through IFC rel aggregates and not through declaration, for example, through IFC rel declares. This is a known anomaly introduced to maintain compatibility with earlier versions of this standard. So yes, we know it should have been IFC rel declares, but it stayed IFC rel aggregates because, yeah, all the versions. So what you're expected to do is an IFC project connected through IFC rel aggregates to a spatial element. And what we will be checking is that there is an IFC site or an IFC facility. So an IFC facility is a super type, but it also can be instantiated. So you can use IFC facility or any of its descendants. For example, IfcTunnel.
For example, IfcTunnel, yes.
If we're in IfcTunnel, that would perhaps make the most sense.
So yeah, really looking forward to the first IfcTunnel files.
Lars produced one today, so
I did one.
We have an example file for you to look at. But so this,
okay.
This should be aggregated in the IFC project, and again, this tip. So observe the note in the documentation. This is what we are trying to do because this spatial decomposition will be used also in a later sprint for something else. And then the third usage that is a bit bigger, yeah, it has quite a lot here, is georeferencing. Hot topic for everybody, and IfcTunnel project has, I believe, produced quite a good solution. And it can be achieved in 3 different ways with 3 different usages, as also presented here, but I'll show the figure later. And you are encouraged to submit 3 different files with each file with a different scenario, or if only one of the scenarios apply to your usage of the software, to your use case, for example, then also one file is enough. And please just try to denote it, what you are planning to do with, in a file name or even in the pull request description. If you went for the georef A, B, or C, explained here in detail more in the bullet points, so that we know when we're reviewing what should we be looking for, and also to perhaps tell you if you've used the wrong thing for what you've been planning to use. And what we're testing is that only one of these is in an IFC file dataset. So if you submit multiple, of course, one each. Is there a question, Sergey? I see you've unmuted.
I've been unmuted since I.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Said
so
spatial structure tunnel.
Let me. I think I've. Yeah, Lars said that I've linked in the wrong one, so we'll just scroll through one. So project global positioning is an existing concept template that has been with us since IFC4. And this one basically tells you that an IFC project has to have a geometric representation context, which you already have from sprint 1.1, for example. But now we're filling in another attribute of that IFC geometric representation context, which has coordinate operation that tells you need to connect with an IFC map conversion. You need to connect the geometric representation context of your model with the projected CRS. This is georeferencing. We've called it georeferencing A for our testing purposes. It's called project global positioning as the concept, and it basically tells you that your geometric representation context is placed in a projected CRS, and that your geometric representation context is topocentric coordinate reference system. So it's the model should correspond, the dimensions in the model should correspond to the dimensions in nature. Then that's A. And what we're checking is that you have either an IFC map conversion or an IFC map conversion scaled, which is a descendant of it, and that you have provided a name of the projected CRS, or you have provided a well-known text representation of the projected CRS. The name shall be EPSG : and then followed by 4 to 5 digits. Pick the one where you reside, pick anything that you have from your current projects, or just fill it with zeros, fine as well. Then we have the second possibility, which is project global positioning geographic, which will link me to the wrong one, of course, because copy-paste mistakes. But what I have here is this one. Let me get this link correct in my README right away.
I have provided some suggestions which you could just comment.
Oh, okay. Okay, then we'll do that afterwards. So this one, project global positioning geodetic, as you can see, we're still working on the documentation here, but at least the instance diagram is here. And it again takes an IFC geometric representation context and connects it to an IFC geographic CRS through the means of IFC rigid operation. Both of these are new entities in IFC 4.4, and they basically rigidly move the whole object to a specific point on a geographic CRS. So geographic CRS is defined through an ellipsoid, through a geodetic datum, and through latitude, longitude, you can pick the point where you want to reside your model at. So what we're going to check here is that you have an IFC rigid operation. Attribute values are irrelevant. That's not completely true. They should be plane angle measures. I need to correct this. So the check already has that. And what we're also checking that geographic CRS name has again an EPSG code, or that it has a well-known text supplied. The third one, project global positioning mapped, again, will not link to the correct one, is this one. This one connects a geometric representation context to a IFC projected CRS with means of IFC rigid operation. So it's a bit different combination of what we've already seen. And this one means that your model is rigidly moved to a certain location within the projected CRS, and that the properties of that projected CRS remain valid for the geometric representation context, which means that projected CRS, we all know, are distorted due to the projections, due to the height reductions, due to various factors. And your model inherits all of these properties. So your lengths in the models are not the same anymore as in the nature. That's the third one. So this mapped is usually used, for example, for, let's say, bigger infrastructure models, while the already existing project global positioning was used mainly for very compact models like buildings or small bridges. And the global positioning geodetic is just another possibility for that small compact models. Right, what we're testing again that IFC rigid operation is used and that the values are IFC length measures. So I need to correct this here. And again, that you've provided a name with an EPSG code, or that you've provided a well-known text representation of that projected CRS. Now for the sketch that sort of tries to convey all of these three possibilities. On the left-hand side, you have the real-world coordinates. So on your construction site, set at fixed coordinates, whatever you want to call them. And on the right-hand side, you have the model context, the model geometries, model coordinates. And there are three paths here. So we have a top path, we have a diagonal one, and we have a bottom path. And you see in the bottom, there's the explanation. So the top path is really connecting projected CRS through rigid operation to a geometric representation context. So this is the GRF C possibility. Then you have the diagonal one, which is the GRF A possibility. That is, I'm placing a topocentric coordinate system within a projected coordinate system. And the bottom path corresponds to georeferencing scenario B. It should hopefully help you to decide which one you're picking, which one you have in your models. And best case scenario, you implement all three of them. Worst case scenario, you implement only one, but we're still happy. So that's sprint 1.2. The checker is not online yet. So if you're going to submit a file within 5 minutes, it's not going to check anything yet, but it will be online hopefully today. Any questions regarding
before we go to questions? One more remark. Let me take over the screen for a second.
Please.
And it's about schema versioning. So now we're actually at the part where the schema is not anymore just 4.3 or 4. We have to know which schema you are using. So
Sergey, we had the first 10 to 15 minutes for that. I've already covered that, if I may interrupt you.
Oh, I thought it's questions in the first 30 minutes. I didn't know that, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Michelle asked me to also convey that, because we conveyed it in the morning, to also convey it in the afternoon for all of them. But so if you can still make a short recap, but I showed them where to find it.
No, I'm just, I'm fine.
No worries at all. Stefan, just one little thing in the GitHub UI, the naming is geographic, whereas in the documentation it says geodetic. Bring back your screen, please, Stefan.
You have to talk to Lars about that.
You did. Okay, good.
Actually, we did the. I mean, these two new concept templates and usages, we created them with those names, but then we concluded that what we are actually using is IFC geographic CRS. So we thought that we should actually change name for the concept template and the usage to project global positioning geographic. So
to me, geographic is clean, cleaner, is clearer.
Yeah, yes, but we did that name change after Sergey actually generated the documentation. So a little bit out of sync there. So it will
get updated.
But it's only the name, so it won't affect any code anywhere.
Is that something, Sergey, you can regenerate in a matter of a few minutes?
Yeah, certainly, but you know, it's a lot of traffic for nothing, and we're kind of. Well, if you would like me to, I can generate it, but it's it's definitely some work because I have to manually push it
Okay.
to the
Sergey, let's also
repository.
try with the new pipeline that we've set up, and then if that works, it will get updated also automatically.
Okay. Thanks.
Perhaps also something that I just skimmed over, so to say, is this well-known text part. So if we look at how, for example, an IFC projected CRS is, it got a new attribute, a new inverse attribute, to be more precise, which is a has well-known text representation. So you can describe your CRS, you can describe the properties of your coordinates reference system with a well-known text, and that's also something that has been introduced in 4.4, and it basically has two attributes. Very simple. Well-known text, that's a text string according to either ISO 13249, or of course, if coordinates reference system is populated, which is the case that we are interested here, then the representation should be according to ISO 19162. And the coordinate reference system basically points to the coordinate reference system it describes. So this is also something that, is a possibility. That's why all of these are always checking either the name is provided as an EPSG code, or you have provided a well-known text to describe the coordinates reference system.
And the typical use case for this, from a domain standpoint, would be like setting up a specific projection or coordinate system for a project, like a cross-border project, or a specific specific needs for a particular project.
Correct. So here I've prepared. So I think Lars, you have something on your pull request as well. I have prepared.
I didn't do well-known text though.
I did.
Yeah.
I prepared 4 examples, and one is just a text file. So I prepared 5 examples. One is, for example, one that will probably fail georeferencing because it has none. But this was basically the base that I took for all the others. So there is classification and aggregation of a site within the file. But it doesn't have georeferencing. So this file, I assume, should fail the check. Hopefully that will check my check. But then you have a file for each of the georeferencing scenarios here. And I have tried, so if anybody is going to import this and try to interpret data, I've tried to also include where this point or this project should reside. For example, georeferencing A, this should lead you to the main entrance of the Technical University of Munich. Then georeferencing B, I've tried, it should bring you to the bell tower of the island of Lake Bled in Slovenia. And here you can see, for example, it's a rigid operation with plane angle measures, and it's a geographic CRS with an EPSG code defined. And then for georeferencing C, we have a projected CRS that is in a DBRF and a rigid operation that has length measures. And again, if interpreted correctly, it should bring you to the main entrance of Technical University of Munich. And then there's a 4th example, which is the A scale. So it uses the IFC map conversion scaled here. And this one also uses an IFC well-known text that has a really, really long string here because it's a well-known text string. But it basically tells that this IFC projected CRS is a very specific type of coordinates reference system designed for the Deutsche Bahn, for the German railways, for their main train station in Bielefeld. So if you've interpreted that correctly, this base point of the project should be somewhere close to that station. Not yet entirely sure if it's the main entrance of it, but at least close by there. So here you can also try and interpret a well-known text. And the well-known text I provided also as a text file, just so that it's a bit easier to read if somebody wants to scroll through it. That's much for the example files. And if you're searching for this at the Building Smart Infra Room IfcTunnel Deployment repository, they're still part of a pull request that Sergey and or Lars should approve. So this one. Questions regarding the IFC, regarding Sprint 1.2, or any comments, or everything's understandable and we get to coding?
Just one remark, maybe, from my side. The versioning of rigid operation and coordinate reference system and geographic CRS, what we added in Tunnel, is not the same as in Building Smart, because Building Smart took our proposal and built it back into 4.3. So we didn't do that. And there we have a divergence, but it's in 4.4. So if you're using the 4.3 schema, you won't have the rigid operation and well-known text and stuff like this available. Just so there are no surprises. If you want to use those, you have to use 4.4.
So I don't see any hands up. Have we lost you all, or is everything clear?
Maybe we could ask Nigel whether this is sort of going in a proper direction to address your expectations.
I need to spend some time investigating and playing and trying it.
Sure.
It looks closer, especially, you know, this defining the locale of something. So I'll sit down and have a play, see what we can do. The fun bit comes when we start doing geodetic transformations to the model data.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And that definitely does need a very detailed, long discussion, and perhaps some presentations on it. That's a basic. The simplified diagrams, it starts to get very, very complex, especially when you place a building, when you mix a non-geographic geodetic model into a geodetic model. Say you're taking a straight, simple rectangular building, 100 meters square and 30 stories up. In Revit or in the design software, it will be 100 meters square at the top.
Mm-hmm.
In a geodetic projection, it won't. It will be wider at the top because it's smaller. And where and when and how you do the transformations is really critical and really hard. And then how you measure things in the systems is also extremely complex and extremely hard. We have enough difficulty explaining people at ground distances of a road design versus 2D planar scaled station distances.
Mm-hmm.
In the States, it doesn't help that a lot of the universities' civil engineering textbooks say stationing is linear distance along the road. And they have nice examples showing that the stationing of 100 meters along the road and the road is on a slope.
Yeah. But like you, as the surveyors typically would know well, you know, all about these, and both in terms of implementing as well as recollecting what has been built.
Yeah.
At the end of the chain. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks. I think that was Jan-Erik.
Jan-Erik.
Yes, please.
Yeah, if you just could explain once more, what is the difference of this diagonal IFC map conversion and IFC map conversion scaled compared to the lower left corner and to the right? IFC geographic CRS approach. What is the difference there?
The difference is that for the diagonal one, you're placing your model in a projected coordinate system, but you're still saying that the model is true to size. But you're placing it, let's say, in SWRF, right? On for the bottom path, you're placing it on a GPS coordinate. That's latitude, longitude. SWRF is, I assume, north and east, right? So it's a different coordinate system that places that base point of your model.
Okay.
So the coordinate units are different.
Understand. Okay. Thank you.
Transformations involved, in short.
Can you rephrase, please, Sergey?
Transformations involved. That's why conversion. If it's a rigid operation, there's no transformations. If we have a conversion transformation, then obviously, or conversion operation, then obviously we have transformations involved.
That I would hand over to Michel. And
I was just
any other business, right?
Yeah, just one short comment that we gave this morning as well, but for those who joined this afternoon, we sort of say that basically we are not expecting you to implement all the concepts, but rather pick up the ones that are making sense for your software solutions or your target market. And what we want to do with this technical support that we bring to you is make sure that the concepts you have chosen to implement you do right, and therefore the technical support we bring to you. So on that particular matter, you could decide to choose to support only one way. You can of course support 3 ways. Really up to you, depending upon your own strategies, of course. Any other questions to Stefan, Lars, Sergey? Looks like you've been extremely clear, Stefan. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll get back to it, but that was a good frame for what is making up this Spring 1.2.
So you can expect, so this is still on my fork, but you can expect this to be merged, I believe, tonight. So this will be part of the main upstream repository for all of you to read through and click and study the documentation. And if anything's unclear in the documentation, of course, you're more than welcome to open an issue.
And the example files, Stefan, they are named after geographic and not geodetic, correct?
They are named after this scenario, so GeoRef A, B, and C. So
good. Okay. Then I think we are good, and we can close this one session, and then look forward to speaking with you again next Thursday, 8 a.m. or 6 p.m. as you wish, CET. And of course, in the meantime, please leverage the capacities of the GitHub platform to exchange with Lars, Stefan, and Sergey, please. Wishing you good night or good day to those of you who are just in the middle of their day. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening, day, or morning.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye.